Hey, what's up? It's me, JDS 4696, and today I'm giving a novel review for Stephen King's The Dead Zone. Now, I mentioned like in a previous video that I was going to return to reading Stephen King novels because I had read like the previous five Stephen King novels that were released by Anchor Bay, which was I thought it was like a reboot of his like novels. So that's why it took such a long time to actually read this one, The Dead Zone, which is actually his fifth like mainstream novel. You can actually say sixth one because they had like the Night Shift novel, but that was like a collection of like short stories that he had written. But like The Dead Zone really is like his actually, you could say, truly a fifth like mainstream like novel, like one story novel, not like a collection of stories or anything like that. But it took me so long to get to this one because I was waiting for Anchor Bay to actually redo this one too, like the reboot of this one too as well. But they never did do it, like the company known as Anchor Book. So I just went ahead and decided to go with this company known as I'm still not sure how to pronounce it. I think it's like Signet or Signet, I don't know. But as you can see, it even has like Stephen King on the back of it too as well. As you can see, like his picture on the back of it. Now these were like the stories that he had written for these were already like the novels that he already had written, they were already established by Signet. I think they were the last ones that did it after they actually had control over his books that was like publishing all his books. So yeah, this will be my review for Stephen King's The Dead Zone. Now of course the Dead Zone is a supernatural like thriller because that's what Stephen King is mostly known for, his writing is like, well, not he's known for like mostly, I guess you could say, like horror, like science fiction or fantasy, mostly like horror though. And it is like kind of like a horror tale to a certain extent, but it's not really like horror, like straight up like like horror. It's still like supernatural like elements to it. Well, it concerns like this the protagonist known as Johnny Smith, or you can call him John Smith. He was like injured in like an accident, like where he was being driven home by like a cabbie, and then he got placed in a coma for like 5 years. Well, close to 5 years. Actually, it was like it was over 4 years. It was like close to 5 years. But then he awakes from the coma, and then suddenly he has like this psychic like ability where he can kind of predict like certain tragedies or like incidents or like accidents that could happen in the future. So thereby, like if somebody's about to get killed or like die or something like that, he can kind of predict it just by touching them too. Like most of the time, like when he predict that they're finna like an accident or this particular person is gonna be involved in some kind of conflict or something, he just has to like touch them, and then he'll know that they're gonna be involved in some kind of like incident or like accident that could endanger their life. So that was kind of like a little cool touch. That kind of is what makes it like supernatural. Like that gives it like like the supernatural element to it, basically. Now the story itself takes place like in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, like in like it occurs like during like the 70s, and that's when like the accident with John Smith had happened. Because it happens after he was at like a affair with his girlfriend known as Sarah, which was kind of it had like a little interesting like story that was going on, like plot point that was going on between those two, because Sarah was with him, but by him ended up in like a coma for 4.5 years, she actually drifted off to another man and got married to this guy and had 2 kids from him, and this is all while John, I think she had her first kid while he was in his coma, but then she had like another one, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Sarah. So I always thought that was kind of like an interesting, like, like little plot point that they had in it, She obviously, Sarah, couldn't wait around for John to get out of this coma, and plus they always thought that he would die as well, Now, 2 other interesting characters in this tale are John's parents too as well. You have I think it's Herb Smith, which is his father, and then you have Vera Smith, which is his mother, and she's like very religious and stuff. She has like a lot of belief and faith, like in like God or anything kind of religious on that matter. She's like very like into like the church and stuff like that, like the Word of God and stuff like that. And they were kind of interesting characters, and they were kind of there as well when Johnny was in this coma and stuff and everything. And they helped actually finance taking care of him while he was in this coma, so they eventually kind of like lost like everything. I think he went like bankrupt at one point and stuff. So like those were like interesting little like elements that they had that Steve had in it that kind of made it, you know, kind of stand out, you know, interesting basically. And the story is broken up into like 3 parts. But now I'm gonna be honest too. I really didn't this one like this, and I think this is probably like, well, I know I wasn't too crazy about the night shift too as well. But this novel, I thought it was like okay. It didn't. It had like some major like plot like you know major elements in it that made it like good. That kind of like made it stand out. You know, that made it enjoyable. But it's still as a whole, I didn't really enjoy it too much. I felt like it was like a lot of like filler in it, you know, like filler like story in it, you know, basically like Steve was just putting all this in there to, you know, like make it like last basically or whatever, you know. It was just so much so much like dialogue and like scripted stuff that didn't really, and not to criticize it, you know, I'm kind of okay with it. I enjoyed his other books, they were good. Now the Night Shift I was kind of, you know, I didn't really like too much, you know. I thought it was okay, had some good stories in it. But yeah, like the Dead Zone, it just, you know, it just wasn't really clicking with me. And I thought John Smith, I thought he was kind of a cool character, like how you can kind of predict the future. I mean, predict like if anything bad is going to happen and stuff like that. Plus, it turns out like one of like the main like plot elements in the story was it was like a serial killer known as I think the Castle Rock Strangler, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he was known as the Castle Rock Strangler, and he was killing people for like 5 years. And I think he started doing it a little after John had went into his coma after the accident. So they had to eventually find out who this serial killer was, and they had to use John Smith, you know, like to help him, you know, because he was able to use like his psychic ability to see like in the dead zone and find out who the killer was. And I thought that was like the best, probably strong point of the novel. But it really wasn't that much, and it does come to a conclusion kind of quick, you know. And then the story goes on with John dealing with like other issues, you know, and stuff like dealing with his psychic ability and stuff like that. But the story does have like a strong like political like viewpoint on things. Like Steve, like he gets very like involved in like politics and stuff in this novel, you know. And I kind of I mean, I'm kind of into that to a certain extent, but it was kind of a turn off to a certain extent. But like other things too, like where he predicted that like this I think cafe or something like that was going to burn down, you know, stuff like that. When they had like moments like that when he was predicting that something was going to happen, like an accident or anything like that, that's when they had like it took off, you know. It was like fun and good, you know, and exciting, you know. But in that, I didn't really think it was too great. And I guess if I would recommend reading it, just, you know, because if you read Stephen King novels, you know, of course, you know, you would check it out. Plus, there was also like a film adaptation of it, which starred like Christopher Walken in it, and I think they went off into like a TV show too. I know they had a TV series too, The Dead Zone. But I thought that was okay. You know, I didn't really enjoy it too much. I was kind of disappointed to a certain extent, you know, but it was okay. I would recommend it, and it did have like some good elements in it. And like a lot of stuff, I still be like it was just like filler, you know, like you just throwing in stuff, almost trying to make the story like last, you know, like just like throwing in all kind of like plot points and elements because it just blew all out like proportion. But I mean, not criticizing him because I think I like his books and stuff, but you know, this one right here, it kind of ran with the Night Shift, you know, so I was kind of, you know, I thought it was just decent, okay, you know. It's like in not to spoil anything, but just like another Stephen King novels, like John Smith, who is the protagonist of The Dead Zone. Of course, he has like a tragic background, you know, and it doesn't look too good for him in the end, not to ruin it. So you kind of know what that probably means, because mostly like Stephen King's like protagonist is like in his story, like his main characters, they always have like a tragic like backfall, you know, everything just fall apart and stuff like that. But yeah, I would recommend reading it. So, and this is like the restart of me going on with Stephen King like novels. So this was my review for Stephen King's The Dead Zone. I thought this was okay. It was all right. And it was a nice sized book, you know. Almost like 400 pages, a thick book. It's still one as massive as The Stand, which is what, like 1,000 pages? It's still not that massive as a book, but it's like a short book. I mean, like a decent long book, you know. So after that, I plan on going on into I think it's Firestarter next, which also had like a film adaptation too, you know, with I think Drew Barrymore was in it. I plan on going into that one next. But yeah, that's why it took so long for me to return to actually reading his novels, because I was actually waiting on Anchor Book Anchor, you know, the Anchor books to continue on with the reboot of his franchise, but they just stopped after, like, I think the Night Shift. I think it was The Shining. They had stopped, you know, so that's why I just went ahead and just gave up on them and just decided to go on for I don't know if it's Signing or Signal. I look it up with their versions of his novels, you know. So I'm planning on going into like Firestarter, I think it is next, and then I think Cujo, whatever. My goal is to aim at getting to It, Stephen King's It, and then I'll probably take like a break or just keep on going, you know, going with them as I go along. But yeah, that's my review for Stephen King's The Dead Zone, and this is JDS 4696. All right.